It's time for the 1430 Connection on 1430 WNAV and 99.9 FM, spotlighting news, newsmakers, and important community issues. Now, with this week's edition of the 1430 Connection, here is WNAV news anchor Donna Cole.
Welcome to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. In the studio with me is Captain Brian Rathgeb, Maryland Natural Resources Police Southern Region Commander. That includes Anne Arundel and Prince George's counties. And thank you for joining me today.
Well, thank you for having me.
So you are here because of a specific reason. National Safe Boating Week began May 18th, runs through May 24th. But I think both of us believe that practicing safe boating should, you fill in the blank.
Absolutely. Safe boating should be occurring all year long, especially here in the Annapolis area, Anne Arundel County, where boating and the bay is such a huge part of life here. As many people are out on the water, we really should every day be practicing boating safety.
And unfortunately, neither one of us, I hate reporting about boating-related deaths, and I'm sure you don't like responding to boating-related accidents.
Absolutely. No. I've been on this job for 22 years, and never, it's never a fun response.
The large lot of accidents seem to be occurring, and I was looking at the Coast Guard report for 2017, and they do this every year. I haven't seen 2018 come out yet. The large lot of accidents seem to occur in the months that you would expect them to occur, July and August.
Absolutely. The 2018 accidents by month, which I do have right in front of me right now.
Oh, okay.
June, July, and August. But that is historically when they occur. That's the biggest time for boating. That's when the most people are out on the water. Kids are out of school. It's vacation. And so naturally your boating accidents go up during that time.
For many people, their boats have been stored all winter. What are some things people should keep in mind before they're put in the water or before they're beginning to use them for the season?
This is something that, when people are getting ready, particularly, this week and going into the summer right before Memorial Day, lots of people, they put their boats away for the wintertime and they sit and, maybe some neglected issues have been allowed to sit and fester over the wintertime, and then they come back out and it's the summertime, we're going to throw the boat in the water, and we go, and then maybe some issues that they needed to, some electrical, mechanical issues that they didn't address on the boat. There they are, and they've been sitting all winter, and they just want to get out, and boom, there's a problem with the electric. Another problem is people, they get boats and they'll have extra equipment put in, whether it's stereos, whether it's GPSs, depth finders, things like that, and either they do the work themselves or they'll hire somebody who maybe doesn't know exactly what they're doing, and so some of the wiring, the electric in the boat isn't done up to standard and what it should be done.
So you're saying hire experts that know what they're doing?
Absolutely.
And this is a life and death decision in some cases?
Absolutely it is.
And the brackish water of the Chesapeake Bay does have enough salt in it to have an effect on wires, yes?
Yes, it does. Yeah, I've dealt with electrocution deaths on the bay before. I mean, I've seen it happen. It does absolutely have an impact.
We've had already in the 2019 season 2 boating-related deaths. The first one was Brooms Island on the Patuxent River, Calvert County. Randy Barrett, 57 years old, died. That was alcohol-related?
That was alcohol-related, correct, yes.
Well, on Monday, May 6th, Annapolis resident George Jager, age 76, pronounced dead after an accident that happened in the South River. That was in Edgewater, Anne Arundel County. And that was?
That was also alcohol-related. People want to go out on the water and they want to have fun, and I get it, but as on the road, people need to be conscious of where they are and what they're doing and safety. And any time that you are consuming alcohol out on the water, your judgment's impaired. And when you add in the factors of the sun, the heat, the wind, the waves, and people not being as familiar with boats, then it's a recipe for disaster.
Our first 2 boating-related deaths of 2019 were both alcohol-related. Alcohol does slow your response time down, as Captain Rathgeb just said. The sun, the movement, it all plays a part.
Everything does, right. And not only does it slow your movements down, but it leads people to make poor choices.
According to the U.S. Coast Guard 2017 report, alcohol use is the leading known contributing factor in fatal boating accidents. Where the primary cause was known, it was listed as the leading factor in 19% of deaths. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back, the importance of life jackets and why they're called life jackets. This is Donna Cole on the 1430 Connection. We will be right back. Welcome back to the 1430 Connection. I'm Donna Cole. In the studio with me is Captain Brian Rathgeb of the Maryland Natural Resources Police. He's the Southern Region Commander, includes all of Anne Arundel County and Prince George's County. Tell me about life jackets.
We always say, life jackets work, and they don't work if you don't wear them. So having life jackets is the first step, but once you get them, you've got to be able to put them on, you've got to be able to access them, and you want to wear them. Back in, when I was growing up and many years ago, the life jackets that you get, they were the big, uncomfortable, they were the orange things, and nobody liked wearing them. But nowadays, they make life jackets, they're smaller, they're inflatable, they're comfortable to wear, and you get on the boat, you throw it on, and you don't even have to think about it anymore.
And that's the point I wanted to make. I am a person with all sorts of surgery that has happened to my chest. I don't like anything that restricts me, incredibly uncomfortable, and when you had your safe boating demonstration last year at Sandy Point, I tried on one of those life jackets, the inflatable life jackets, and I didn't even know it was on. It was so comfortable.
They make all the difference in the world because, particularly with kids too, little kids, they don't want to, they feel constricted. But when you put on one of those, they're comfortable.
When cause of this again coming from the Coast Guard 2017 report, when cause of death was known, 76% of fatal boating accident victims drowned. Of those drowning victims with reported life jacket usage, 84.5% were not wearing a life jacket. Again, referring to the 2017 Coast Guard reports, drowning, 449 deaths. People that were wearing life jackets were 68. 370 of those 449 drowning deaths were not wearing life jackets. What's the law with kids, by the way?
Under 14, under 21, underway. So if a kid's under 14, the boat's under 21 feet, and the boat is underway, which means they're away from the dock, then they've got to be wearing a life jacket.
Why is this ignored so much?
I don't understand why it's ignored. I agree. I have kids. I love my kids, and I would not put my kids in a dangerous situation. People wouldn't think about getting in the car with little kids and not having car seats riding down the road anymore. I don't understand why they would do it with life jackets and going out on the water. A life jacket, again, you need it once you're in a boat accident more than any other time. And it's not, once you're in an accident, you don't have time to stop and then let me go get the life jacket and let me put it on. You need to have the life jacket. You need to have it there at all time. And particularly with kids, because you've got to make sure that you are taken care of and that you can save yourself before you can even worry about saving a kid. So a kid's got to have give them a fighting chance, give them the life jacket, put the life jacket on.
Okay, I'm going to phrase this question rather uniquely so I don't put you in a weird position here. What do you think of those states that have life jacket mandatory laws, kind of like helmet laws? And I'm phrasing that carefully, not to put any pressure on you regarding Maryland.
Right, yes, and I certainly don't, am not taking a stance here one way or another, but I think that they contribute to the overall safety out on the water when people are mandated to have life jackets. It's like when people are mandated to have to wear seatbelts in a car. When you're mandated to wear a life jacket, you have it on. You don't even have to think about it. If you're in an accident, if the boat starts sinking, you don't have to be worried about finding the life jackets. It's already there. It's on, and then you can make your plan from there for saving yourself.
All right, it's May currently. Water temperature is not yet what it's going to be in August. That has played a part in deaths also.
It has. It has. The cold water, people think, oh my gosh, it's 80 degrees today. Wow. But we haven't had enough 80-degree days, and the water is still cold. So when you go in, your body will react to that cold water, and it will start to shut down quicker than it will in the warm water. So again, coming back to the life jacket, if you get to a point where you're in cold water for too long, you're going to start to lose your your mobility. And again, that life jacket will hold you up if you lose your mobility.
You should have life jackets wear on every single type of...
Every time that you go out on the water, any kind of vessel, you need to have a life jacket. People always think of the big power boats that absolutely you need to have a life jacket on that. They think of the sailboats. Yeah, you need to have a life jacket on that. But when you start to get down into canoes and kayaks and paddle boards and, the stand-up boards, that's where people will... Oh, I don't need it there. Oh, nothing's going to happen here. Oh, it's just I'm just paddling. But absolutely, in those situations, you need to have them as well.
Actually, again, back to this report. Vessel types with the top casualty numbers. Number 1, open motorboat, and we'll talk about that because it's not big motorboats. It's
Correct.
Number 2, personal watercraft. Number 3, cabin motorboats. Number 4, canoe and kayaks. Number 5, pontoons. Yeah, that first category, open motorboat, it's generally on the smaller ones, yeah?
Right. Yeah. Something a 16 to a 24-foot boat. It's not the large boats.
Yeah, where Coast Guard, where length was known, 8 out of every 10 boaters who drowned were using vessels less than 21 feet in length. Keep those life jackets on.
Anytime you leave shore.
We're going to take another short break. We'll be right back on the 1430 Connection. Welcome back to the 1430 Connection. This is Donna Cole. In the studio with me is Captain Brian Rathgeb of Maryland Natural Resources Police, Southern Region Commander. We're talking about boating safety because this is National Safe Boating Week. We've talked about life jackets. We've talked about some of the leading causes of death on the water. Let's talk about weather decisions, and let's talk about the rise in sports like paddleboarding or kite surfing around the Chesapeake Bay. Cannot be ignored, and we do have a great region for it, but some of these people like to do this in weather that is very dangerous, and that's what makes them fly, either in speed or literally flying above the waves.
Well, absolutely, and I understand there are plenty of people who seek out the thrill, the rush, the excitement of participating in these sports when there is a greater presence of weather, whether it be wind or waves or however you want to look at it. But anybody going out on a boat, again, whether it's a paddleboard, whether it's a John boat, whether it's a 36-foot cabin boat, they need to be aware of the weather before they leave the dock. And, particularly here in the Chesapeake region, storms, they come and they go quickly. You could leave the dock at 1 o'clock and it's sunny and blue skies and you think everything is great. And then by, 1:30, 1:40, here comes, thunder clouds rolling through and the wind and the waves. And oftentimes people will overestimate their own abilities. It is better to underestimate and to get off the water than to make the mistake of thinking that you can handle something that you can't handle.
So when there's a small craft warning,
Yes.
Does that mean small craft should not be out in the bay?
Yes, a small craft warning does mean that people should, again, you need to be aware of your boat and the capabilities of your boat and your ability to handle the boat. But generally, in a small craft warning, people, particularly, John boats and kayaks and smaller boats, they shouldn't be going out into the bay.
And the adrenaline junkies are going to have a hard time hearing that.
They're absolutely going to have a hard time hearing that. And again, I understand there are people who are involved in extreme sports, and there are levels of skill and ability that I can't begin to fathom. And sometimes you go over to Great Falls and you see some of the kayakers there in the falls, and you think, oh my God, these people are going to die, and well, they're amazing. But most people are not like that. There is a very, very tiny portion of this segment of the population that's like that. Most people, you need to take into account the weather, and you should not mess around with Mother Nature, because Mother Nature has no regard for who you are and where you're from and what you're doing.
You get calls about things like this from people that are observing it from wherever, not necessarily that saying, I saw somebody doing this, that, or the other, I think they're in danger, and you have to do what?
We have to respond.
And is that dangerous for your people?
Absolutely, it is dangerous for our people. We have been called to respond to life-threatening emergencies when the response of our officers is putting them in a life-threatening situation. And, nobody wants to do that, but you're putting more people at risk by the risk that you are taking yourself.
I know this is going to sound sexist, but I have to ask, does gender play a role? Do you think some of this is machismo, or is it generational, or is it both? We both grew up in a time where no car seats and life jackets were not as encouraged as they are now, and data has given us that there is a direct correlation between a life jacket worn and a life saved, or a car seat used and a life saved.
I think that there is. And this is just my personal observations. I don't have any data on this, but I think that there is a small generational issue where older folks, I never grew up wearing life jackets. We were fine. We'll be all right. I think that is diminished some. I think that there does tend to be, I think that men tend to take more risks with their own personal safety when it comes to life jacket use than women will.
Okay. What do people need to know this summer?
Right now, as summer's getting ready to kick off, I just want to make sure that everybody knows when you're excited, you want to go out and you want to boat. Fantastic. We'd love to see you out there. Before you get underway, go over your boat. Make sure that it's seaworthy. Make sure that it's ready. Make sure that everything is in working order, that there's no holes that need to be patched up. Make sure that you have all the equipment on board that you need to have. You need to have a wearable life jacket for everybody that's on board. You want to have a throwable life jacket to bring out with you. It's only required for boats 16 feet and over, but it's always a good idea for anybody. Mm-hmm. You need to have a sound producing device. Depending on the makeup of your boat, you need to have a fire extinguisher. But again, just make sure that you have all the equipment on your boat that you need to have. And when you do leave the dock, number one, consider the weather. Look at it. Look not just at the next hour, but you think, well, we're only going out for an hour and a half. Well, just look at it for the rest of the day, because maybe you get out there, we're having a great time. We're going to stay for a couple extra hours. Make sure that you look at the weather. You know what you're doing, know where you're going, and always let somebody know where you're going and an approximate time that you're going to come back. People rely so much on cell phones, but sometimes the cell phone battery dies. Sometimes reception isn't there. So just make sure that you've let somebody know, so that in case something does happen, and we need to come look for you, that at least we've got a starting place.
EPIRBs for people that are going offshore.
Absolutely. For people who are going offshore, it's not something that's, really prevalent right here in the Bay region.
A lot of our listeners
when you go down to the ocean and you take your boats out there, absolutely. You're going 5, 10, 15 miles offshore. Any EPIRB is absolute lifesaver.
Thank you very much for joining me today and for doing what you do. Absolutely.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to come on.
This is Donna Cole. This is the 1430 Connection. We will see you next week.